Thanks very much for watching. Here in conversation with Andrew Connell, must read in the Australian newspaper. Always great to have him here. Senator Leyonhjelm, representing the people of Victoria and the Liberal Party in the Senate, and, well, the king of the Liberal Democrats. We couldn't love him anymore. The cigar-loving, straight-talking, straight-shooting, literally, David Leyonhjelm. Lovely to have you here, mate. All right, so let's, you'll all get a big intro later. I'm just giving him his big one now. So the latest on Barnaby Joyce, twofold here. One, Andrew Broad, don't worry, I haven't heard of him either, is a Nationals backbencher, and he decided to jump on the ABC today and say that he will raise the matter at a party room meeting that isn't really a party room meeting on Monday. But because it's the latest micro-inch, here he is.
Certainly I would anticipate the issue of leadership will be discussed. The great thing about the National Party, of course, Nicole, is we don't talk about what goes on in the party room, but you would be naive to think that the issue of leadership would not be discussed in the party room.
Will you be pushing for a spill of positions on Monday?
I'll certainly be taking the views that have been written to me and collectively well, we've got a resolution basically from the FEDC. I'll be taking that to the party room. And they have also contacted Senator Bridget McKenzie because she is a Victorian senator with those views as well.
What will that resolution say that you take to the party room?
It's basically saying that at this point in time he should take a step back, stand down and be in the backbench.
But of course, all the senators won't be there, so it won't technically be a party room meeting that can actually resolve the leadership. So he gets his 2 minutes of fame. More importantly, these sexual harassment allegations, brand new ones that have been filed with the National Party. Samantha Maiden is across the story, and we spoke just a couple of seconds ago.
Well, the National Party has confirmed that they have received a formal complaint. I understand that they received it earlier this week on Tuesday. It is from a woman from WA that is understood to have some sort of link. She has made this complaint known to the national leadership over there, but it's not clear, for example, whether she is a member of the National Party. It doesn't seem to be the case that she is. So Larry Anthony confirmed tonight that a formal complaint has been received, that all complaints are taken seriously and treated with a strict confidentiality given the due process. He said Mr Joyce had been made aware of those claims. Now, I understand Larry Anthony actually rang the Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce about these claims this week. His office has released a statement tonight saying that the claims are spurious and defamatory.
So is this any connection back to the, and I'm sorry to be so crass about it, but the bum pinching thing from a couple of weeks ago that we learnt about, or is it something completely separate and that might inform us as to why the WA Nats said what they said this week?
Well, look, the National Party is not releasing any detail about what is in this. It is privileged, legally privileged information. There are obviously a number of legal recourses that they can go down in relation to that. Barnaby Joyce's office is saying that this matter should be referred to the police, but they're certainly not detailing any content of exactly what has occurred here. I think that, you know, the key take out of this, talking to Nationals tonight, including Barnaby Joyce's supporters, is that they do believe that he will now need to stand aside. This is people that are Barnaby Joyce's supporters who actually believe that he may have a good case to be able to defend these allegations, but they believe it'll be very difficult for him to fight that if he remains in the leadership. Now, obviously, throughout the day, before these allegations were made public, we had that call from Andrew Broad for Barnaby Joyce to stand down. It seemed quite clear that Barnaby Joyce still had the numbers, but this sexual harassment allegation does seem to be the final blow, and even Barnaby Joyce's supporters are speculating tonight that he may need to step aside from the leadership. There's no confirmation of that yet at all from Barnaby Joyce, of course, though.
So interesting there, and obviously it'll all be denied by Barnaby Joyce and the defensive crouch he's been in for the past couple of weeks, but as Samantha's just reporting there, some people say, look, he'll get through it, but the length of time it takes to prove or disprove an allegation would be such a distraction that he may have to think about his position. All we know is it keeps rolling on. Andrew, the conversation has been, well, let's wait for the other shoe to drop. Is this potentially the other shoe, or is this just the next incremental bit of the story?
Who can say? I was very interested to hear Sam say there that his supporters are going to now maybe encourage him to stand aside, at least pending the complaint. That is a development. But I think really the key for Joyce, if that doesn't occur, is to stop a vote. Now, the Nats can't get their act together usually. If there's a vote and he were, say, to win 13-8, then a couple change sides and he's gone. So it's hardly resounding. You're starting to get to that territory of Gorton McMahon where they were 33 each and Gorton just went, oh, well, I'll go. Yeah. So that's the problem, because there's probably a solid 6 votes of the 21 against Barnaby. There's probably about 7 on his side and the rest can't make their minds up or want to see what happens. So, look, I think the issue is for him, apart from this complaint, which does sound dangerous for him, is he's got to stop a vote. That's what he's got to stop.
Because also, I mean, the difficulty for him here, Senator Leyonhjelm, in fact, I'll ask it this way rather than, you know, whether he should stay or go. When he comes to you in Parliament in the next couple of weeks and says, let's negotiate a bill, do you think you're negotiating with somebody who is distracted by the personal, or what's it going to be like to work in a working sense when Barnaby Joyce has all of this over him?
Well, for a crossbench senator, Barnaby's probably one of the worst ministers I've ever had to deal with. He hates dealing with a crossbench. He doesn't really want to negotiate. He reminds me of the old Australian approach to dealing with people from another country who didn't speak English. Rather than try to speak to them in their language, they just speak louder. That's my experience with him. So, you know, I've always said, I don't think there's anything about what Barnaby has done that's in the public domain so far with his new girlfriend and the baby on the way and all that sort of stuff. You know, I don't see that any grounds for him to go on from there. But as a minister, I think he was not particularly good. He made some pretty crappy decisions, and I can tell they're bad because I disagreed with them.
But also, I get the sense too, Andrew, and sorry, Senator Hume, I'll get you in here in a second, but I understand the difficulty when you're talking about a coalition partner. This actually feels like it's a completely new story. So rather than thinking that the harassment thing is just part of the initial story, this is no longer about the affair. This is no longer about the second job. This is no longer about the moving people around. This is no longer about the, you know, Darren Chesters of this world doing what they're going to do, talking about delegations and all the rest of it. This is a formal complaint that's come to Western Australia. The problem is, if there's no detail about that complaint, it could be the smallest thing in the world, or it could be the thing that means he's got to go.
And that's a problem. We don't know enough. But what has been said in the last few days is there's no smoking gun, which is what David's talking about. So you've got a situation, you've got a messy family situation. Many people might disapprove of the way he's gone about things. The Vicky Campion moving offices, there's debate either side there. Like, is it appropriate that she continue to work in his office and she was known as a capable press sec? On the other hand, is he giving jobs to his girlfriend? The free rent looks bad. So he's nearly there. He's not quite there in terms of controversy and so forth. People have been saying, well, it'll change when there's a smoking gun. I don't know if this one is, like you don't know if this one is or not. It could be just another version of the pylon. I actually think it's incumbent on the party to let us know more detail of the actual allegation.
Absolutely, because the truth is that, as we know, the smallest of things can be officially declared. I mean, thankfully, and I say thankfully here in terms of us trying to deduce what's going on here, if it was sexual misconduct, we know that that is the widest possible definitions of things that are being thrown in there, from anything said at a party through to, you know, pressuring someone. Harassment is slightly further up the scale and obviously not as significant as assault. But Senator Hume, here we go, 2 and a bit weeks and we're still talking about Barnaby Joyce. So, do you have any faith that the Nationals can resolve this, or it's just going to be putting off the vote for as long as possible?
I think the Nationals have to resolve this, and you know, whatever way they choose to do that is their own business, and it's not any Liberal member or senator's place to comment on that. But a resolution is certainly what is required. As far as the new allegations are concerned, I think that the DPM's office is absolutely correct. All allegations should be referred to the police. Anything else is just, you know, defamatory. So, you know, we really need to sort of move on from there. But the right procedures need to be put into place to get that ball rolling.
All right.
There's a question about that the Nationals probably need to think about too when they meet. It's not just about Barnaby. It's that, do they want to stay in government? And the relationship between Barnaby and Malcolm looks to be pretty seriously damaged, if not totally lost. Now, so if Barnaby was to stay as Deputy Prime Minister and Leader of the Nationals, can that relationship with Malcolm work well enough for them to win the next election, considering where their polls are at the moment? So I think the Nats ought to bring that into their thinking as well.
Yeah, all right, well, we'll see what happens.
I deny that, David. I think that, you know, the Prime Minister's made it very clear that he has a functional working relationship with Barnaby and with all of the Nats, and that shouldn't be an issue in this.
And well,
yes, but we also learned through Barnaby Joyce, what in his interview in the Fairfax Press, which was don't ask, don't tell about the baby thing. Come on, there's going to be a couple of rough question times to go, and they're about far cleaner issues such as when did you know and what did you know and all the rest of it. So, look, my view is always the Nats will always choose government. Why wouldn't they? Or whether they become some sort of unofficial giant crossbench, who knows?
The other big issue is if Barnaby loses his job, does he spit the dummy and cause another by-election? Do they lose that by-election? Does the government lose its numbers? That's the other thing.
Well, that's why we're going to see what happens in Longman as well, whether that becomes an insurance policy. All of them quite fascinating and plenty more to talk about here on Paul Murray Live. But mercy, we tap out, relax, it's okay, we're done with it, we move on.